I'm Margaret Floyd Barry, Master Restorative Wellness Practitioner, author, speaker, and Executive Director of Restorative Wellness Solutions. Each week, I interview the world's leading experts in functional health and nutrition to uncover the latest research findings, case studies, and evidence-based clinical applications for reversing chronic disease, including actionable insights and strategies you can implement immediately to elevate your practice, increase your impact, and change the way health is delivered. Hello, hello, hello. Well, what a delightful conversation I got to have with Dr. Gina Nick, naturopathic physician, researcher, and formulator of many things, including a very cool new glutathione supplement we're going to talk about today, as well as our all-time favorite purification program. This conversation is a crash course into all things glutathione, what I like to think of as the body's master bodyguard. It's such a powerful antioxidant and can be really finicky to supplement in a way that is truly bioavailable. We unpack all of that and look at the different types of glutathione supplementation, everything from topical to IV to the different ways to get it orally. We look at the different biomarkers we can use to assess sufficiency and deficiency, dosing recommendations, all the things. Now, I got to tell you, I was already a believer before this interview. I use glutathione personally and with almost all of my clients, but now I am even more convinced and I have a whole new set of applications for it. I think you're going to get some really valuable clinical pearls in this one, so enjoy. Welcome, everybody. So excited for today's episode of the Clinician's Corner. We have with us Dr. Gina Nick. Dr. Gina is a world-renowned naturopathic physician, researcher, and formulator based in Newport Beach, California. With a dedication to holistic wellness, she is known for her expertise in treating a wide range of health concerns from autoimmune diseases to addiction, recovery, anxiety, and more. After graduation from medical school, she became the director of research for a leading supplement company, earning the company billions. She has since held the roles of executive healthcare consultant to local and government agencies and president emeritus of the California Naturopathic Doctors Association. As the founder and director of HealthBridge in Newport Beach, California, her practice was awarded top medical practice in 2017, a testament to her commitment to excellence. And it does not end there. She's also a published author, entrepreneur, a certified yoga instructor. And I want to give Dr. Gina a very special shout out. So for those of you who have taken our hormones class or our blood chemistry class, you hear us go on and on about the standard process 21-day purification program. Well, shortly after meeting Gina, I think it was like 2 or 3 years ago, I learned that Dr. Gina is the brilliant mind behind this. She was the original formulator for that incredible program, which is our favorite purification program because it is this beautifully rare combination of extremely effective and yet gentle. Normally it's gentle and does nothing, or extremely effective and kind of brutal. And what you have done with that was incredible. And there's so much more. She is doing some really exciting things, and we're going to do a deep dive into glutathione tonight. So Dr. Gina, thank you so much for joining us.
It's my pleasure. Thank you, Margaret, for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, me too. So I would actually love to start off with a little bit about your personal journey. So what specifically got you here and specifically interested in glutathione?
So, my journey started actually a long time ago when I first started practicing. And even before that, when I was in naturopathic medical school, I started to all of a sudden faint and have these weird vasovagal reactions. Nobody knew what was wrong. I had all these doctors around me. Obviously, I was in school and nobody could figure, my blood work looked great. Everything was great, right? But there was these weird things happening tied to inflammation. And I was actually at the health food store, and a woman that worked there that I had befriended was like, "Oh, I just got back from this amazing detox institute." And I'm like, "What?" And I'm in naturopathic medical school. I'm like, "Yeah, I kind of learned about detoxification, but she made it sound like the best thing since sliced bread." And so I'm like, where is this place I'm going? So I went to this detox institute, and it just opened my eyes to the power of the human detoxification system. I was blown away. And mind you, I'm in school. I had been studying nutrition forever, forever. But my experience actually going through a detox program and talking to people from all walks of life with all these different conditions who just got results, just by detoxing. Like, wow. So I kind of took it upon myself to really teach myself about the human detoxification system and really deep dive into it. So fast forward, and I opened my practice, and one of my first patients was actually a drug addict. Oh. And I was trying all the things, doing all the testing and functional medicine things that I've been taught, but I also gave him glutathione. And he said, about a year in, Dr. Gina, of all the things you're doing with me, glutathione is having the most profound effect. It's what I really notice the most. And so I'm like, okay. And so that happened. Fast forward, and one of my beloved nephews gets diagnosed with autism. And he's a baby. And I kept telling my sister, we need to give him glutathione. Of all the things, it was like, and I wasn't as passionate about glutathione as I am now. This was years ago. But I didn't want to give him a shot. Yeah. And at the time, liposomal glutathione is a really well-absorbed quality product. He wasn't going to take it. It tasted disgusting. And I always had an issue with patient compliance with liposomal glutathione. And so my sister reminded me recently, she's like, that planted another seed for you. Because I saw your wheels turning. You're like, how am I want to create something that my nephew will take daily that will benefit him. Yeah. And so then fast forward more, and I had been using the standard process purification program, which I had designed in my practice all the time. And I was approached by a company who manufactures a form of glutathione. And because they knew I was involved in detoxification and talking on that and all that. And so they hired me to research glutathione. That forced me to do a real deep dive where I went through, there's over 100,000 clinical research studies on glutathione. And so I really did that deep dive into it. And, because as clinicians, we all know, you don't have time to do the research, And so because I was hired to do this and actually run a study through my practice using their glutathione, I'm like, this is amazing. This is amazing. And so then I was giving a lecture at the International Congress of Naturopathic Medicine. This is before COVID. There were 600 clinicians there, acupuncturists, medical doctors, naturopathic doctors, healthcare practitioners from all over the world. And I was talking about glutathione and neuroinflammation and detoxification. And I asked the audience, how many of you use glutathione regularly in your practice, are familiar with it? And it was not that many people raised their hands. A very small fraction, yeah. And I was like, this is bizarre. Why isn't everybody super into glutathione and using it? Every practitioner should be using it in their practice. And so that planted the final, that planted the final seed. And so I like to jog when I'm in new places. And I was in London where the lecture was, and then I went to Paris, and I was jogging to the different health food stores. I was going in the health food stores, and I'm asking about glutathione, doing my own little market research study. And they didn't have it. They're like, what? Glutathione? What's glutathione? So anyway, then COVID hit. And I'm homeschooling my daughter. I'm sitting there and, I was always dressed in all the garb. We didn't know what COVID was yet. And I was doing home visits and giving injections of glutathione and carnitine to my patients. And then the study came out showing that glutathione prevents a severe reaction to COVID. But I was home and trying to teach my daughter and seeing patients and all the things. And I'm like, that's it. I want to create a glutathione that is accessible to everybody, that works, and that tastes good. That's what I wanted to do.
That's a tall order, that taste good part.
And so I created a capsule form of the glutathione that I had studied and knew worked. And I was using that with my patients, and all my patients that were taking it kept wanting it because it worked and they felt better. And then I created a formula, and I sent it off to the lab, and I wanted it to taste like a pixie stick. Like, I'm going to like hack the whole sugar thing. It was driving me nuts, you know, all the sugar that kids consume.
Yeah.
And so I got back the first formula and it tasted amazing right off the bat. And I haven't had to change it since. And it was kind of like, I feel like it was divinely inspired, the formula itself. You know, I kind of woke up one morning, I'm like, okay, I'm going to put this in and this in, and it just all came together. And so here we are. I wrote a little book called The Power of Glutathione, and now through blood, sweat, and tears, I've launched the products. And, you know, it's the capsules have been used for quite some time now with my patients, and they're just awesome. And now I have it in a form that kids can take. So I have a little kids pixie stick, and I have an adult pixie stick. And yeah, that's where we are.
I love it. I love it. So what I want to do is I actually want to take a step back and just make sure everybody is on the same page. And yes, we're practitioners here, but just to make sure, can you explain exactly like what glutathione is, where we get it, and what it's doing in the body? And then we'll dig into the different clinical components.
Sure. So I refer to glutathione as the mother of all antioxidants. It is the master antioxidant in the body. It's manufactured in every one of our trillions of cells. It's a tripeptide, so it's a combination of 3 peptides. And it's a potent antioxidant, that's for sure, but it is known for lowering inflammation in the body, lowering inflammation in the brain, and then it's a very powerful detoxification agent. It's very crucial to phase 2 detoxification, the whole conjugation pathway. And so, you know, when I formulated the standard process program, and I must have cited like 430 different clinical research studies at that time. You know, this is 2 decades ago. But there was a lot of data on certain herbs and nutrients and vegetables and all that supports phase 2 detoxification. And glutathione was in there, like I mentioned it in the book, but I didn't really do a deep dive into it. But yeah, it chelates heavy metals out of your body. In the brain, there's less of a concentration of glutathione, which makes it's actually the reason why the brain is more vulnerable to exposure to toxins that can trigger cognitive decline, neuroinflammation, and all the symptoms tied to depression, anxiety, symptoms of autism, attention deficit disorder, and so forth.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that piece because, you know, we think about detox. Like, I think glutathione, I think, yes, master antioxidant, I think inflammation, and I think detox. But I don't specifically immediately think neuroinflammation. I don't think cognitive health. You know, would I bring it? I love glutathione. I bring it into a lot of different things that I do, but would I be thinking of it from that specifically? So can you like, let's explore that a little bit about the lack of it in the brain.
Yeah. So in the mitochondria of cells within the brain, right, is where glutathione works. That's where it does its magic in terms of neutralizing free radicals, neutralizing toxins, and rendering them inactive so that they don't cause DNA damage, right? And we know, I think it's so fascinating that toxins in the environment tend to congregate in the mitochondria of our cells, powerhouse of our cells. That's where they go, you know, and cause DNA damage and compromise mitochondrial function. And there's a lot of talk about mitochondrial health these days. Yeah. And so in the brain, there isn't as much glutathione there to protect the brain from these toxins. And there's some interesting data out there associating a lack of glutathione, a glutathione depletion with conditions associated with cognitive decline, like Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease. You know, so it's that significant. And there's this whole concept of sickness syndrome. Have you heard of sickness syndrome?
I feel like I've heard of it, but can you define it for us?
So it's basically if you have inflammation in your body, right? Yeah. And there's like interleukin 4 or interleukin 6, you know, circulating around your body, your brain will actually produce those same interleukin molecules to mimic what the rest of the body is doing. And it's a protective mechanism, you know, to protect the brain from whatever the body is facing. Right. And that's great. but it kind of gets out of hand, and it triggers this neuroinflammation, and that leads to cognitive decline, depression, anxiety, all sorts of different mood disorders, brain fog, symptoms of long COVID, you know. And so glutathione is like key to just rebalancing that whole process and keeping inflammation at bay in the brain.
And so when we're supplementing, we're going to get into all the nuances in terms of all the different types, because we know this is one of those ones where you really have to know what you're doing with supplementing. But when we are taking it in assuming it's in a really bioavailable form, can we be confident that when we're taking it, it is actually affecting the brain as well? Like it is having that same kind of response?
So it depends on the form you're taking, right? And if your body is actually absorbing it. And then yes, you know, and it's going to have a more profound effect on those people who are naturally have less glutathione in their system because their system is depleted, which in my opinion, most people these days have some level of glutathione depletion going on. I mean, it's how can you not? because everybody's exposed to so many toxins and you know, stress in the, you know, I mean, it's like it goes on. And we all know that. We all know we're being exposed to more toxins than we even know of right now. And so when you take glutathione, I mean, everybody who takes it, like when they take Best Daily Ever, they all say, I just feel better. And so at one point we're like, okay, but why? Why are patients, why do they say they're quote, feeling better? You know, is it placebo? Is it what's going on? You know, and but then I saw as patients were continuing to want more and more and more. It's not placebo. You know, there's more going on here, and I think the reason is that it is lowering that inflammation. So because when you say you feel better, what is that? Usually it's you have more energy, and you're thinking clearer, and your mood's more balanced. That kind of equates with feeling better. And so, yeah, in the right form, absolutely, it will, you know, cross the blood-brain barrier and get into the mitochondria of the cells and help to lower inflammation in the brain and the rest of the body.
One of the things you and I were talking about when chatting about today was the surprising impact you're seeing on hormones. Can you talk a little bit about that, particularly in our, you know, peri and postmeno female clients?
I'd love to talk about that because it's kind of a newer discovery. We know, and it makes logical sense. I just kind of found this out from talking to patients. We're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing for, you know, this time of life. And I have some patients who don't want to be on hormones. For whatever reason, and some of them are just on Best Daily Ever. That's all they take, and it deals with their symptoms. And then when they stop taking it, their symptoms return. So why is that? Well, the liver is essential for helping to clear hormones. So just as important as making sure you have enough hormones in your body to maintain balance is how well is your body clearing them. Because if you have kind of an overload of hormones, you're going to have a faulty system. Your whole endocrine system is going to kind of not do what we want it to do. And so I think one of the main ways that glutathione is two ways it's really helping with the perimenopause and menopausal phase. One, it's helping the body to clear hormones. If you're taking hormones, or if you're exposed to like xenoestrogens, which are toxins that mimic estrogen and bind to estrogen receptors and wreak havoc on the body, you know, so you're helping to clear those out to help have more balance during that 10 plus year phase of a woman's life. And then also a lot of the symptoms tied to perimenopause is basically, you know, as you have that like decline in mainly progesterone and estrogen. Well, as you have that decline, or I refer to it even as a deficiency, it triggers inflammation. A hormone deficiency causes inflammation. And so glutathione lowers inflammation.
Right.
And so that's one of the reasons it's helping with like symptoms of perimenopause and menopause.
Fascinating. Now, this would also, I imagine, because one of the questions we had in our practitioner group before coming on today is how does it impact sleep? Because people report better sleep, right? So I would imagine it's similar kind of mechanisms.
Hormone balance. It's
Yeah,
helping with hormone balance, including melatonin and also cortisol,
right.
and so that's what's helping to have a more regular sleep cycle. But patients are always saying that, yeah, it helps me to sleep better. And we know progesterone can be very helpful. When you have a healthy level of progesterone in your body, it can be very helpful for optimizing sleep. And so, glutathione helps to keep just hormones balanced, including progesterone.
Right.
Yeah.
So I want to ask about biomarkers in a second here, but before I do that, what we're basically acknowledging here that most people are walking around deficient, and we've used up the body's natural supply. Is that simply just a result of living in this sort of toxic soup that we all live in? Or are there other pieces to that puzzle? Because it does feel like, the life we're living, nothing is recognizable really from, 150 years ago, let alone the thousands of years that preceded that. So obviously that's going to have an impact. But are there any like specific pieces of that puzzle you think have the biggest impact on sort of draining our body's own production of glutathione?
I mean, I think the number of xenoestrogens in our environment has increased dramatically, and that's having a major impact on women and men. I think that's a major issue. Stress. Just stress is causing inflammation in a big way in our environment these days. And our bodies, it's my truth that our bodies haven't adapted yet, just from an evolutionary perspective, to the volume of toxins that we're exposed to, because we have this elaborate human detoxification system in place working 24/7. And glutathione is so central to that entire system. It's so key. And so we have it in place. Our body's working to remove toxins. It's clearly something super important to do to stay healthy, or it wouldn't be happening in every one of our cells 24/7, involving most of our organ systems, And so I just think that we are overburdened. I mean, it's pretty simple, and so that depletion is just naturally going to happen. I mean, it's, yeah. And in fact, like, I mean, I used to test all the time, blood levels of glutathione, and I do test pyroglutamate waste. And there's all these different ways to test for glutathione. But quite frankly, I'm like, I don't know anybody who wouldn't benefit from some glutathione in their diet. And you can get it from foods. There's, yeah. So, I mean, things like broccoli and spinach and peaches, organic, and cherries, even red meat has some glutathione in it. So we are getting it in our diets, if we're eating whole foods. But again, it's just like not enough. Not enough. And the way we know that is because when you take a quality form of glutathione, it improves your health.
You mentioned a couple of biomarkers for those who want to test, even to see like a before and after, which is always really helpful. And I know that there are nuances with testing. So let's talk about that. So what kind of biomarkers are we looking at? Which are the ones that are the most reliable for true bioavailability? The Clinician's Corner podcast is sponsored by Restorative Wellness Solutions, the premier clinical training program for health practitioners who want to learn how to finally get to the root source of their clients' health concerns and help them reverse complex health challenges and chronic illness. You can't afford to keep guessing. Your clients can't afford it either. Today's clients are sicker than ever before. Their health histories are more complex than ever before. And you simply can't deliver the results they crave or build the practice you desire without the right clinical skills. Enter Restorative Wellness Solutions' foundational course, Mastering the Art and Science of Gastrointestinal Healing. Our clinically proven, systematic approach to restoring balance within the body that has helped over 1,000 practitioners transform their clients' lives, grow their business, and change the way health is delivered. In less than 12 weeks, you'll develop the clinical skills and confidence you need to help your clients feel better, faster. Learn how to work with advanced lab testing to identify food sensitivities and imbalances within the gut. Craft custom targeted protocols that truly resolve your client's gut issues, and work safely and effectively with supplements to deliver consistently life-changing results. Enrollment for our fall 2024 semester is now open. Visit masterguthealing.com to apply today.
It's so hard. Honestly, it's such a hard question. I have the hardest time answering this question because I don't think we have a good answer. I really don't. You can test whole blood, red blood cell levels. You can test for glutathione wasting, and that's more of a functional test, which I tend to gravitate more towards, looking at like pyroglutamate wasting. So as that increases, we know the body's depleting itself of glutathione. But, just if you're wanting to know if what you're taking is actually boosting your levels, pick one of those tests, as a baseline, and then take whatever you're going to take in terms of how you choose to boost glutathione levels, and then retest using that same biomarker.
Yeah.
But again, to really know how much glutathione is housed within the mitochondria of the cells, within all the different cells in the body, I mean, that's not an easy ask, and it changes day to day anyway.
Yeah. It's a little bit like a heavy metals test, right?
Right. And with heavy metals, it's like just test everything, but then have a baseline and then use that same test post. Yes.
100%. 100%. So let's unpack all the different forms of glutathione, because we've got so many, we talked about the liposomal, there's reduced, there's, topical, there's IV, there's so many different forms. A lot, as I understand it, it needs to be at minimum liposomal in terms of actually being bioavailable. And then we have this like horrific taste issue. But talk to it, like, if you could walk us through, like, what are the different forms and what are the ones that we want to steer clear from, and what are the ones that we want to actually consider? And then because you've done something special with it. So then tell us about what you've done.
Yeah. So we'll start with IV. There's IV glutathione.
Yeah.
And there's controversy about how effective IV glutathione really is.
Yeah.
Right? Because that tripeptide is kind of a large molecule, and it doesn't necessarily all get in to where you want it to get into the mitochondria of the cells where it's going to have the effect, And so, and the body is under tight homeostatic control with regard to glutathione. So more isn't better. It's not. And I'm always about physiologic doses of things, because, right. And with glutathione, it's true. Right. Dr. Nayan Patel, who's a colleague of mine, and he wrote The Glutathione Revolution, and he has a topical form of glutathione that works, Glutaril. And he's like, Dr. Gina, IV glutathione is a waste. It's such a waste. None of it gets into the cells. It's useless. I won't take it to that level. Right. But, and I do intramuscular injections in my practice in some patients, when I feel like I want to boost levels even more, situationally. Right. But, anyway, so there's IV glutathione. There's controversy about how effective it really is, how much of it actually gets into the cells, and how much are you taxing your body because your body's constantly trying to keep homeostasis as it relates to reduced glutathione levels. Right? So there's that. There's intramuscular injection. I use those. I like them when needed for an even higher dose. Right. There's you can even do like a nasal spray, or you can nebulize glutathione. Mm-hmm. Nebulized glutathione is amazing. It's hard to administer because it tastes bad and it smells bad, but it does work to really get into the lungs. So if you have a real, a serious upper respiratory issue going on, nebulized glutathione works, and it works well. It's not easy for doctors to always access. Like in California, we can't get it anymore, But
you can't get glutathione to nebulize.
To prescribe nebulized glutathione.
Interesting. What about for people at home with their, nebulizer from Amazon? Like I know there's hacks around this. I feel like this was all the rage during the pandemic. I mean, everyone was nebulizing glutathione.
Oh, and so that's why I was telling my patients, just go get a nebulizer, open up
Right.
some capsules of Best Daily Ever, and go to it. I mean,
Oh, great.
that's there. There's topical glutathione.
Yeah.
And that's so Dr. Patel created a form where he was able to fold the peptide in a particular way so that it can actually get into the cells.
Okay.
So that works too. Smells.
Does it?
Liposomal glutathione has kind of been the gold standard for oral forms.
Yes.
Generally, it doesn't taste great. There's some that taste better than others, but liposomal glutathione works. It does work. And then I stumbled upon a form of glutathione with clinical research studies backing its ability to boost blood levels and red blood cell levels by about 30% when taken orally, which is pretty darn good. It's pretty awesome, actually. And so it's a stabilized form, and it's a reduced glutathione form. And so there's a brand called Setria Glutathione, and that's the form. So the company that manufactures that, they're the ones that had hired me originally to just do research on their raw material,
Right.
And I was like, this stuff works, and it works really well. And there's the research to back up its efficacy, and so it's funny when I went to formulate the products. I'm working with the manufacturer, which, there's a lot that goes into formulating a product and manufacturing it. And, they kept wanting me to use just reduced glutathione. Like, what's the difference? It's hard to get Setria. It's 3 times the price. It's this, it's that, et cetera. And I kept being like, no, I just want this form, or I don't want it. That's what I want to use. But anyway, if you look at a label and it just says L-glutathione or reduced glutathione, we don't know if it works. Has it gone through the process that something like Setria has gone through, and it's created through a fermentation process. And through that process, the proprietary process that allows that glutathione to get into the cells and have the effect in an oral form. And then for the pixie sticks, I used glycine as the main sweetener. And glycine is one of the peptides in glutathione, so it helps with additional, it's kind of giving your body one of the components that it needs to manufacture its own glutathione. So
That's great. So are you using is the name Setria?
Setria.
Setria. Are you using the Setria in the Pixie Sticks as well?
Oh yeah, it's I'm using only Setria.
Only Setria.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. So Best Daily Ever is bestdailyever.com. We got a little code for you guys as well, which we'll share at the end. But that is your brand. Is anyone else doing it? Like, if I know we have people in other countries as well, so I don't know if how available this is internationally. But do they look for that on the label?
Look for Setria, on the label, because that's the one that has the research backing it up, showing that it actually does boost blood levels and red blood cell levels. So for me, if you're going to use glutathione in oral form, absolutely use that.
Now, let's talk about the difference between this and then using precursors, right? So, using something like NAC or ALA, or, there's different, people will use different things to kind of stimulate the production, sulforaphane. Will you pair this glutathione with some of these precursors, or is there ever a time when you would use one of these precursors in the place of actually using the glutathione directly if somebody doesn't tolerate it? Because we've certainly see people sometimes not being able to tolerate glutathione right out the gate.
Well, then usually it's a dosage issue. When they can't tolerate it, usually it's a dosage issue. So I'm all about getting the biggest bang for your buck, right? And so for me, the goal is to boost glutathione levels in a way that's safe and healthy for the body. And so just take glutathione. That's kind of I'm biased. That's my approach. But N-acetylcysteine, that it's one of, again, cysteine is one of the peptides in glutathione. So it does help with the production of glutathione. So you're working with your body. If I was going to pick one or the other, I would go straight to glutathione.
Right.
In the form that works, in a form that actually works. And do they work together? Yes. So with the purification program, the standard process purification. So when I formulated SP Cleanse, one of the products within the purification, so that I love that formula. I love that formula. I just do. It's powerful, but you can use glutathione. Glutathione enhances it. At the time when I formulated it, which again was 2 decades ago,
right.
I had not done that deep dive into glutathione. I just hadn't yet. And so I add Best Daily Ever to the purification program. And so I'll have patients take SP Cleanse for the first 7 days. Right. And then I'll introduce glutathione after that. So once they're off SP Cleanse, because SP Cleanse does boost, it gives a lot of the precursors, to the production of glutathione, and works, on those conjugation pathways, phase 2, with glutathione. Right. And so I feel like take SP Cleanse first. And then once that's done, they're having to take 21 capsules a day for 7 days.
Right.
Then, but it's based on the dosages that, the research shows works,
It works.
But then I have them add Best Daily Ever, 2 capsules a day, days 8 through 21. So
now let's talk about dosing, because you mentioned too much. So clearly you can overdo it. Talk to us about how you know how to dose for a client in front of you. What are some of the considerations you're making?
Yeah. So if it's just, it depends on what the symptoms are, and what the patient is facing. So if it's just to support detoxification and optimize health, or if I have women who are on bioidentical hormones, I insist that they take Best Daily Ever, and so usually 500 milligrams of the glutathione a day, before bed every night. That's kind of like the standard.
And that's the timing was my other question. So you're saying before bed. Okay.
That's when the body manufactures glutathione at night. So I'm work with your body, and so just support what it naturally does. You can take it during the day. I'll take it if I forget to take it at night. I'll take it during the day. It's still going to help you, but in general, I'll have patients take it before bed.
Perfect.
Helps with sleep. And so usually 250 milligrams to 500 milligrams is what the research shows has the effect in terms of boosting blood levels.
Yeah.
Right. Of this form of glutathione that I use. In terms of if you have somebody who is in a really neuroinflamed state, I'll use up to 1,000 milligrams to really have a profound effect, short term, usually for a week or two. And then, but in terms of maintenance, again, I'm about using more physiologic doses day to day. So even whenever I've talked about detoxification, I'm always do something every day that supports your detox mechanisms. And it can be taking a supplement, it can be sauna therapy, it can be jogging. It's almost have that mindset, that you're doing something every day to support your body's human detoxification system. So.
Yeah, I love it. So, are there any contraindications, any people who should not be taking this? Either they're on a specific med, they have a specific health issue, other supplements?
I mean, that's such a tough, so it can increase clearance, right, of any medication. And so if you're on a prescription medication, definitely your patient is, you need to monitor them, but again, remembering your body's manufacturing this stuff on its own anyway.
Right.
You're getting it in your diet, so we're just kind of supplementing that. And so don't get too stuck on, oh my gosh, my patient's on a prescription medication. If I give glutathione, their medication isn't going to work anymore.
Right.
Then it's usually more of a dosing thing, but you want to monitor their condition. But in terms of there's some controversy in terms of some patients who have cancer, or now there's these fast-growing tumors that nobody knows why they're happening, but they may be tied to the COVID vaccine. And I am not well-versed in all that. I have not done the deep dive there. Right. But there was some question about would glutathione like feed those fast growing tumors. And I looked at it. It doesn't make logical sense to me. And as best as I can tell, based on the research we have today, which is not a lot, I don't see how it would negatively affect those conditions. I just don't. And again, and it's based on dosage. I wouldn't say go get IVs of glutathione necessarily. Maybe IVs of vitamin C, sure, but
Yeah, no, that helps. I want to talk about glutathione in kids because you started off with your nephew, right? So how are we dosing differently in kids? When do we bring it in? Is it just the same as with adults? We should have them all doing this on a regular basis.
So no, kids need glutathione, and again, they get it in their diet. Their body's manufacturing it. So I have these pixie sticks, which you'll get them this when I see you. But this is the adult dosage. So the kids is half the size. It's half of it. So it's essentially, this formula has glycine, vitamin D3, magnesium, zinc, as well as glutathione in it. But I did half of the dose. So it's 125 milligrams of the Setria Glutathione. And that I feel very comfortable with a child taking safely. Because it's mimicking if your child was on a very, very, very healthy diet and not exposed to any toxins, it would be mimicking what your body would be exposed to anyway. So you're just supplementing, and just by working with the body and supplementing with what it actually needs, it's amazing what happens. It really is. And so, and you don't, if a child has autism, of course, you're going to look at using higher doses, right? So that's that's when they're in a highly neuroinflamed state. So you may want to use higher doses, but that's such a patient specific thing. But, when I went to design the kids' pixie sticks, I just wanted to see it in every kid's lunchbox. Right. At school, if my daughter takes this every day, I feel comfortable that she's pretty protected, in terms of immune function and cognitive health. So,
Joey's got a question in terms of defining kids. Is there an age, or are we thinking weight? Are we thinking, when do we move them up to an adult dose?
Yeah. So that's so tough, and again, I think every practitioner has a different perspective on it. What I have to put on the labels is different than what I might do in my own practice, And so, in terms of what would be on the label, you're talking, a kid, 10 to, 16, and then, up to the adult dose. But really, by the time a child is 12, they can handle an adult dose.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I see a whole lot of questions. I am going to make sure I can actually read them a little bit better. There we go. Okay. Lots of great questions from the audience here. We talked about testing. I'd love to talk a little bit more. There's a bunch of questions about going too far. How do you know if you've gone too much and you've kind of overdone it with a dose? What happens physiologically? What are some of the symptoms? What do we do?
Some patients will get lightheaded if they've taken too much glutathione, and it's tough to know but we do know that your body's under this tight homeostatic control, and so in terms of symptoms, other than feeling lightheaded, that would probably be an indication that it's too much. Other than that, it's more of it's a mechanism that's happening in the body that we may not know is happening. It's kind of which your body's constantly working for you and in spite of what you're doing, every day anyway. So it's one of those things where just being mindful of working with your body. And if we know, the fact is, glutathione is under tight homeostatic control. And so, and we also know that, that means that taking too much is going to offset that whole process.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think the key message that I'm hearing from you here is, 500 milligrams a day is a really good dose. If something severe is going on, you can bump it up. I think about, I run these crazy distance events, after a marathon, I'm always super dosing this kind of stuff, but I'm not doing that for, months. I'm doing it for a week or two. Right. And then just, really bringing that oxidative stress burden down.
To treat those symptoms. Yeah.
Exactly. It's
Even 250 milligrams a day.
Yeah.
Is a quality form you'll see results, so.
Amy's got a question here. Are there any genetic SNPs that we want to be mindful of, meaning they might not be able to tolerate it?
In terms of not tolerating it, straight glutathione?
Yeah.
I got involved with all the genetic testing and all that, and I kind of backed away. Every doctor has their own things they like to do. And so I kind of backed away from that whole world because I just didn't feel like the research was there yet totally. Like it wasn't, and I just didn't embrace it yet. Doesn't mean I won't. But not that I am connected with or that I've had experience with. Yeah.
Okay. Absolutely. And connected to that, Linda's asking, what are symptoms of intolerance? I have one client right now who she has a very large toxin burden that we have been working on for literally years. And it's actually probably time to try glutathione again.
At a low dose. At a low dose.
At a very, very low dose, because we've not gone really high with her, but she definitely has. I'm trying to think of what the exact symptoms are, but it's a hard no. Like when she's done it before, it has been, the body is like very not impressed.
Well, think about, like if you go into an intense detox, the detox reaction can be really intense, whether it's, skin reaction. It crosses board. And so, again, I'm a fan. And even when I made the 21-day purification program, I designed it to be kind of something that is easy on your body, but actually works. Same thing with the best daily ever. It's like, it's easy on your body, but it works, so even somebody who you may think is intolerant to glutathione, it may just be the dose. They may just need a little less. Their body can't handle too much yet,
I am also wondering if it's in part the form will have an impact. I'm going to try. I will report back. I'm going to try. I'm actually talking with this client tomorrow. I'm going to mention it to her and see. We'll try the pixie sticks because she can just sprinkle little bits in, start very, very slow and gradually increase. Okay.
It would be detox react. If you think of who can't tolerate glutathione, if you've got compromised detox pathways, you need to start slow. Right. You just do.
Jennifer is asking, she says, I would love to hear more about how glutathione specifically supports the large colon when chronic disease is present there.
So what type of disease? Like cancer or just any chronic disease? It helps to feed, the intestinal enterocytes that line the colon. So, and that's one of your primary immune defense organs, right? And so it's helping to basically nourish those cells so that they function better, It will help to, lower that gut-associated lymphoid tissue and that whole inflammatory process that's going on. So it's going to support, it's going to nourish the cells that are tied to the immune system that are housed in the large intestine.
You have a special offer. You have a couple of different things that you want to share with our community. So bestdailyever.com is the website. And we have codes for discount off your first purchase. It is CC Audience 10. And you get 10% off your first purchase. So that's CC Audience 10. And you are telling me about something special that you are doing that starts in the next couple of days. So this is really special for you guys, for those of you, especially who are already familiar, and actually those of you who aren't yet familiar with the purification program. We have a great little opportunity for you to hop into something here.
So I started a group purification program, and it's based on the 21-day standard process purification program that I designed, but I've added glutathione to it, and I've added Best Daily Ever to it, and then I've created this group process where I'm helping walk people through the program. So I always say, you can just get the products and do the program on your own. But my gosh, is it easier when you have the support of a group who is everybody's going through it together. I'm coaching people through the process. So as questions come up or as you need little tips and tricks, I know a lot of them from doing this program for 20 years, but I have added glutathione, which I feel is a missing piece to the program. So I've added Best Daily Ever to the group purification program. Yeah. And so for the clinicians, I'm offering it at 50% off of the program, just so you guys can kind of participate, and I'd love to have you. So it technically starts tomorrow, but the first week is prep time, and then the real kickoff begins the following week. And so, and we have a private WhatsApp group so everybody can communicate with one another, and I'm going to be monitoring that. And then we have live Zoom calls. So, I'm excited about it.
That'd be a great opportunity to try out the purification program if you haven't done so already, and try some of are you doing it in the pixie stick style, or are you doing it in the capsule style?
So the capsules, but we can add the pixies. People can add them if they want, just to flavored water, especially when you're on the purification program. You don't have a lot of options of what to drink. So
for those who are interested in joining you on that, how should they get in touch with you?
So if you just go to drgina.com, drgina.com, you'll see a link for the purification program, and you can just sign up there. You can also just go to my Instagram, drgina.nick, so Dr. Gina Nick, and you'll see the link in the bio to sign up for the program. And you'll see all the testimonials of people who have gone through the program, and get most of your questions answered there.
Awesome. I see Tiff has already signed up, which is awesome. Carrie's asking, will you do the program again? If this is just a little too short notice.
Every season. We're doing it every season. But again, feel free to jump in, and at pretty much it's going to be at cost for your clinicians, Margaret. And so I welcome you all to participate. I'd be happy to, connect with you and share everything that I know about this program.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you guys, if you haven't done it, it is our, it is such a good, we recommend that people do it twice a year, sort of spring cleaning, and then get a little fall reset before winter hits. It's just such a good overall support. I've done it so many times. I love it. Well, thank you so much for being here with us tonight. This has been fantastic. Such a good deep dive. I think everybody's going to be really excited to try this type of glutathione. Definitely learned a lot about different applications. Now I'm thinking about all the hormonal symptoms we can be addressing with this. It's really fascinating.
That's my most exciting find recently, is the impact it's having on hormone balance in women going through perimenopause and menopause.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. And thank you to everybody who is here with us live. Oh, actually, someone is asking, is there a discount code for the program? How do they let you know when they go to your website? How do they let you know about the 50%?
Maybe it's RWS50.
RWS50.
And that will give the clinicians 50% off of the group purification program.
Perfect.
And then just jump in, like I said, the first week is just prep week. And so for your clinicians who've already done the program, just kind of mentally getting prepared and doing all your grocery shopping and all of that. And then we really just all hit the ground running next week. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm signing up, and then I'm seeing more questions that I didn't see. So, Ellen is asking about the Apex formula. That's I think she's asking about the trisomal. That's been one of our go-tos because it is liposomal and not horrifying.
Right.
It's not, some people quite like it. I actually don't mind the taste of it. So but I've learned that when I tell clients it tastes fine, then they're set up for a different expectation and they tell me that it's horrifying. So, but it's not and I'm like, well, you haven't tried the others.
Right? Like, relatively speaking, it's awesome. But then try the pixie sticks, because honestly, they're so good. And, I've added, like I said, there's glycine and magnesium and zinc and vitamin D and vitamin C in there as well. So it's kind of a nice rounded out formula.
Right.
I'm biased, but I love it in terms of an oral form that tastes good. But you can take it in capsule too, and it works.
And all of you, I'm always a big believer in like doing a little bit of your own science, right? So, go off of glutathione for a little while if you're taking some, get your levels tested, and then maybe, try pixie sticks and then get them tested 30 days later, and then go off for a little while, see how you feel. But also then maybe get your baseline checked again and then try a different type. Like I think there's some trial and error that we can all do. Sometimes we want to be told which one's the best, but I think it's always nice. I've done this experiment. I hear claims. I mean, one of my favorite examples of this, totally different product, but I remember, do you know Sean Wells? He's a supplement formulator. I'm sure you've come across him. Yeah. So he came on here. He was talking about the Dihydroburberine, and he was, sharing how, you can eat something that has got lots of carbs in it and and watch, on your CGM, watch the blood sugar spike and eat the exact same meal with having taken the Dihydroburberine 30 minutes prior and see what happens. So in the name of science, I ate one of my most guilty, one of my favorite indulgence foods, which is straight up mac and cheese. And I watched the non-dihydroberberine all, with my little blood sugar spike. And then I took the dihydroberberine and watched it nice and flat. And it was all in the name of science. So you guys, there's all sorts of fun things that we can do in the name of science.
Yeah. Speaking of that, so one of the popular uses of Best Daily Ever in my practice is for people who drink alcohol, because it prevents a hangover. It just works. I am not an advocate for alcohol. It's a neurotoxin. I'm always talking about neuroinflammation, not your friend, especially for women. They have more trouble metabolizing and all that. However, I was asked, I'm like, well, because I was talking to a colleague and she was talking about, we should make mocktails with your Best Daily Ever because it tastes so good, And then somebody's like, but can't we make a cocktail with it? Like, won't it help to kind of neutralize out? I'm like, that would be a good experiment to take a cocktail and then add Best Daily Ever to it and see what that does. So anyway, there you go. In the name of science.
In the name of science. In the name of science.
But yeah, excellent. I mean, you can use them both. For me, I always try, if I'm giving something to my patients, I'm using it experiment just like like I'm experimenting with it too. And there's something about I just keep taking these products, and so it tells me I need them and also that they work. And so, yeah, I do encourage trying them and just, being your own best teacher and researcher too.
I love it. Wonderful. So folks can find you at drgina.com. We can find the product at bestdailyever.com. And we will include, of course, in show notes, we will include all your social handles and all that fun stuff. Thank you so much. And what a treat. I get spoiled. I get to see you in a couple of days. So I'm very much looking forward to that. And thank you so much for sharing all your wisdom with our community.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me, Margaret.
Thank you for joining me for another episode of the Clinician's Corner. Don't forget to head to the show notes to access additional links and resources. And if you like today's episode, please be sure to hit the follow button and consider leaving a review, sharing it on social, or texting it to a colleague. The more we spread the word, the more lives we can impact for the better.